It was a cool night in Birmingham, the birthplace of heavy metal. Thousands of fans gathered at the NEC Arena, buzzing with excitement. Black Sabbath was finally reuniting. Ozzy Osbourne, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, the core legends were back together. The stage was set. Smoke curled under the lights. Fans wore vintage shirts, raised devil horns, and chanted, "Sabbath! Sabbath!" No one expected what would happen next. The band had been teasing this show for months. Rumors swirled online. Would Bill Ward return? Would it be the last time they played together? But nobody guessed a Rolling Stone would crash the party. Backstage, even the crew looked nervous. Something big was brewing. Tony Iommi stood at the edge of the stage, adjusting his guitar. He glanced toward the wings and nodded. Ozzy walked out first. The arena exploded. He shouted, "Let me hear you scream, Birmingham," and the crowd obeyed. They launched into War Pigs, and the energy hit the roof. But halfway through the show, just before Paranoid, Ozzy said something strange. He grinned and looked off stage. "We got a little surprise for you tonight." The crowd roared with confusion. A surprise? At a Black Sabbath reunion? Then, out walked Ronnie Wood. Yes, Ronnie Wood. The Rolling Stones' own riff master. The man known for bluesy swagger, not doomy Sabbath chords. The audience gasped. Some fans stared in disbelief. Others screamed like teenagers. Phones flew in the air to capture the moment. He wasn't just waving. He was holding a guitar. The look on Tony Iommi's face? Pure mischief. This had been planned, secretly. But why was Ronnie there? What brought a Stone to a Sabbath show? The truth would come out later, but at that moment, nobody cared. Ozzy turned and shouted, "Let's do this, brother," and they launched into a roaring, blues-heavy version of Fairies Wear Boots. People lost their minds. What happened next would go down as one of the greatest surprises in rock history. And it all started months earlier, when Tony Iommi made a phone call that would change everything. The secret that started with a phone call. Months before the Birmingham show, Tony Iommi sat in his home studio, surrounded by old tapes, guitars, and memories. The idea of reuniting Black Sabbath again had been floating around for years. Ozzy was in. Geezer was game. But something felt unfinished. Then Tony had a thought. What if we brought in someone unexpected? Not as a replacement. Not to steal the spotlight. But as a tribute. A celebration of British rock history. That's when he thought of Ronnie Wood. Tony and Ronnie weren't just two legends, they were friends. They had played charity gigs, shared wild nights in London clubs, and swapped riffs in dressing rooms going back decades. They respected each other deeply. So Tony picked up the phone. "Ronnie," he said, "I've got a crazy idea." Ronnie laughed. "Mate, those are my favorite kind." Tony explained the plan, a surprise appearance at the Black Sabbath reunion. Just one song. Something unexpected, something bold. Ronnie paused. He wasn't known for heavy metal. But this wasn't about genre. This was about legacy. Brotherhood. Music history. "I'm in," Ronnie finally said. "Let's blow their minds." The two of them started planning in secret. They picked Fairies Wear Boots because of its bluesy riff, something Ronnie could slide into naturally. Rehearsals were quiet. Private. No press. No leaks. Even Ozzy didn't know at first. When he finally found out, he grinned wide. This is gonna be mental. Meanwhile, the band's fans had no clue. The Birmingham show was being advertised as a straightforward Sabbath reunion. Nostalgia. A final bow. But behind the scenes, something more powerful was building. A moment that would blend two worlds, the bluesy rock of the Stones and the dark metal roots of Sabbath. And Ronnie? He didn't want credit. No big announcements. No media circus. Just the music. He flew into Birmingham the night before. Slipped in through a back entrance. Rehearsed quietly with Tony and the crew. One sound check. One run through. And then, he waited in the wings. As Ozzy said his cryptic words, "We got a little surprise for you tonight," Ronnie took a deep breath, strapped on his guitar, and stepped into the lights. The audience reaction? It shook the arena. But what Ronnie did next, after the show, surprised even Ozzy. And that moment would prove that this wasn't just a stunt. This was something personal. After the show, what Ronnie whispered to Ozzy backstage. The final note of Fairies Wear Boots rang out across the Birmingham arena. Ozzy screamed into the mic, "Give it up for Ronnie Wood," and the place erupted. Ronnie laughed, sweat pouring from his face, as he raised his guitar high into the smoky air. Tony Iommi and Geezer Butler clapped him on the back, and the four men stood shoulder to shoulder, legends from two different worlds, united for one unforgettable night. Then the lights dimmed. The show ended with Paranoid, as expected. But fans left the building talking about one thing, Ronnie. The internet exploded within minutes. Twitter lit up with blurry videos. YouTube channels scrambled to post clips. Headlines appeared by midnight: Rolling Stone crashes Sabbath reunion, and Ronnie Wood and Ozzy share the stage. What does it mean? But backstage, something even more emotional was happening. Ronnie walked off stage and found Ozzy in the hallway, sipping water, still catching his breath. Ronnie put his arm around him and pulled him in close. "Hey," he said softly, "I just wanted to say, thank you." Ozzy looked confused. "Me? For what, man?" "For letting me be a part of this. I've played with everyone, Oz. But this? This was special." Ozzy blinked. This was Ronnie Wood talking, a man who had jammed with Hendrix, Keith Richards, Clapton, even Bowie. But tonight, something had clearly hit him differently. Ronnie continued, "We've all lost so many, haven't we? Lemmy, Charlie, Jeff Beck. It's like pieces of us are disappearing, one by one." Ozzy nodded, eyes lowering. "But tonight," Ronnie said, tapping his chest, "tonight we reminded people what British rock was really built on. Raw sound. No egos. Just mates playing loud, dirty music." Ozzy was quiet for a moment. Then he grinned and said, "Yeah, and we blew the *****ing roof off." They both laughed, hugged, and Ronnie whispered one more thing. "I've got one more idea, but it's not just for one night." Before Ozzy could ask what he meant, Ronnie was already walking down the hall, guitar slung over his shoulder, waving to the crew. The mystery lingered. Did Ronnie want to form a supergroup? Record a blues metal album with Tony and Ozzy? Or was it something deeper, something tied to the memories they all carried? The next day, Ronnie posted a simple message on Instagram. "Legends never die. Thanks for having me, boys. Long live Sabbath." Fans flooded the comments. But something in the tone made people wonder. Was this just a guest spot? Or the beginning of something no one expected? Ozzy didn't answer questions the next week. Tony Iommi smiled cryptically in interviews. And Ronnie? He stayed quiet. Until 2 weeks later, when he showed up somewhere very unexpected. And this time, he wasn't alone.